What's up, everybody? You got Yashan here, recording a quick little recap of the Raise Your Edge Bootcamp Day 1. I was starting to watch part 2, and Ben suggested after you watch every video, make a 5-minute recording summarizing what you've learned. And the best way to ensure that you've learned something is to teach somebody else. So I am going to do that real quick and send this around, hopefully, if it comes out well. If I can remember, because I didn't watch it all today. I watched some of it the other day, and then I just finished it an hour ago. Okay, but he was talking about accepting your death, especially in terms of not being afraid to value bet thinly. Um, there are spots where it makes way more sense to lean on your opponent and just go bet, 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 or maybe bet, bet and check depending on the river. Um, Rather than trying to check and have them do the betting for you. They're only really going to be barreling off better hands. People are under bluffing, and also they're under folding. So there's textures. He gave an example of this texture where we open ace queen and we get flatted in position and it comes ace 9 6 rainbow. And on this kind of texture, when we bet flop and then bet turn, let's say turn is a 7, we are supposed to see villains start folding hands as strong as ace 10, ace 10? No, I think ace jack, ace 4. So like some top pairs are starting to fold. And then on river, if we barrel again, they're also folding river. And people underfold this line. So Ben was recommending like you can go thin for value. You can bet 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 with top pair, good kicker, especially on an ace high board where they're gonna station you down with like ace jack, ace 10 when you have ace queen. Um, Versus if you try to check call in spots where they just don't have the bluffs, like first of all, in order for them to have enough bluffs on the river, let's say you check the turn, it requires them to be bluffing all of these combos on the turn. He goes through and talks about like there's so many combos that they're not bluffing. So this concept of not only do they have to bluff river the right amount, they need to have already bluffed the turn the right amount. And if they're not doing that, they're automatically under bluffing rivers. So, like, check calling rivers in general, often a bad strategy, depending on texture. Better to bet yourself. Don't be afraid to value bet thinly. And, um, and under bluff. That was the corollary. So if they're supposed to be folding these top pair hands that they're not folding, we just want to underbluff these spots and just go for thin value. Um, so he talked about this hand for quite a while. Then talks about these extremes of like against certain villains in certain situations, you never bluff and you never slow play value. You just go bet bet bet. When you have top pair top kicker, you have a set. Use big sizings, be exploitative, go bet bet bet, never bluff. They're under folding. They need to be folding these hands. They're never folding. Just don't bluff them. If the equilibrium strategy that includes bluffs is assuming they have a perfect response, and it's very, very sensitive in either direction. As soon as they start overcalling river by just a little bit, all of the bluffs vanish, and we just go for value. Like you just bluff zero. It's that sensitive, right? If they're off by a little, you want to never bluff. Um, and then of course, if there's a different spot where they're left with a bunch of junk that's going to overfold, then you can always bluff. Um, What else? What else did he talk about? Oh, multi-way spots, just bet folding in multi-way spots because they're very heavily underbluffed. A lot of unintuitive bluffs in these multi-way spots. You can just bet fold. Um, so just bet fold, bet fold, bet fold. And then, okay, so this was a cool spot actually. So he talks about when we might, rather than wanting to barrel turn, want to consider checking back and capturing value on the river from bluffs. So he talks about three criteria where you need all three of these criteria to be true in order for us to want to not barrel the turn. And that is when you have a dynamic flop in particular that villain already continued on that has a lot of draws, which can bust out by the river and give a bluff opportunity. We can give them a bluff opportunity. Um, we need a hand that we don't perceive or that doesn't have three streets of value. So we're going to want to be checking one street regardless. And we need a hand where we don't need to protect our hand. Um, and he does mention with the protecting the hand bit that if they have a very high equity draw, they're going to continue anyway. You can't like protect your hand when they have this high equity draw. It's more like folding them off gut shots and stuff like that. Folding them off stuff that has like random two over cards, like these kinds of hands that are going to auto fold um, but have good equity against us. And he goes through an example where he played a pot against from middle position against big blind. He has king 10, flop is queen 9-5. He bets small and gets called. Queen 9-5, it's two-toned, so there's flush draws. There's every gut shot in the book on queen 9-5. It's like that kind of board, you know. Turn is a king, and this is a spot where we have king 10 with the gut shot, so we need less protection, and there's only like random ace overcard, um, which probably only is from nut flush draws on the flop anyway. Those will continue anyway, or hands like ace 5, ace 9, where they have the pair with it, might continue anyway. And we don't have a 3-street hand most likely, unless river is like another king. Um, Once again, queen 9-5, king. So Ben chooses to check back, giving this guy the opportunity to bluff river with all of his busted gutters, busted flush draws, whatever, what have you. And sure enough, the river is an 8. The guy comes out bombing, or like whatever, picks some sizing. Ben snaps it off with top pair, and the guy has ace 10 with the 10 of spades. So he had like some backdoor shit and an ace high. Reasonable enough. So yeah, very cool spot to think about, like just checking back to capture bluff EV on the river. And it's true that sometimes they get there, but when other times they don't get there and they bluff, assuming that's I guess the fourth assumption that he maybe didn't touch on in the slide, but I think he mentioned that you need to be against a capable opponent who will actually bluff the river um, once the turn goes check check and they have like a good bluff candidate. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Oh, there's also a similar spot. Okay. Like the King 10, he gives another example. I should pull it up on video, but I'll just talk about it very quickly, where it's like heavy ICM, big chip leader, opens EP, Ben flats cut off ace jack. They get a jack 5-4 two-tone, c-bet call, and the c-bet was polar, it was like half pot already. Turn is a 3, double flush, so jack 5-4 3 double flush, and now the guy checks to Ben. And Ben explains how the checking range is polar, because he'll check some traps, and he'll check some pure give-ups. And everything in between that has like top pair plus, or that has like a good draw, some kind of gut shot maybe, flush draw, all that stuff, it's a good spot for him to barrel. It's very natural, like started the hand 50, 45 effective. So if he like B80s the turn, he can shove river, it's very natural. So he'll barrel all this stuff. So when he checks, the checking range is actually kind of polar. And even with ace jack on jack 5-4-3, Ben decides to check back. And that way we can basically capture from all of these bluffs he'll have on the river. Ben mentions like king 8 off with a heart, because the guy's like giga chip leading, or like queen 9 off, queen 10 off, like all these hands, um, we can just capture a bluff on the river rather than like betting into this basically range full of air that's going to fold now or that's going to check raise us and make our life hell in this ICM environment. Because we don't have a three street hand, even with a hand as strong as ace jack. It's not a three street hand. So it's another great example where opponent has a wide range. He has a lot of air that can bluff river, and we don't need much protection. We have ace jack. All of his stuff has like one overcard, mostly like three outs to come once. Because he's not checking his draws, he's gonna barrel them. So we just check back, and then sure enough, river comes offsuit 8. The guy bets 3/4 pot and shows up with king 10 off or something. He had some bluff, yeah, something like this. So yeah, I believe that is everything. Yeah, okay, cool. That's my summary. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one.